Hi and welcome to my Python YouTube channel. It's awesome to have you here. If you like this video, a thumbs up would be great. And make sure to subscribe for future videos. I also have a blog at prospercoder.com with lots of cool stuff, so feel free to check it out. In my previous video, we were talking about the basics of functions. If you haven't watched it yet, feel free to do so. Today we'll be talking about functions with parameters. You can also read the written version of this video on my Python programming blog at prospercoder.com. You already know that we use function names followed by parentheses to call functions. Now, what are the parentheses actually for? In the parentheses, we usually pass some data that is then used in the function body. It could be a variable or literal. In the function definition, we call the data parameters. There may be any number of parameters, including 0, like in our example in the previous video. When we call the function in the code, we call the data passed to the function arguments. Let's have a look at the following example with just one parameter. The parameter's name is inches. The function converts inches to centimeters. It prints the converted value to the output. Below the function definition, we have some code where the function is called in the for loop. We pass the loop variable as an argument to the function. So here's our function, and here's the argument. So here, length is the argument which corresponds to the parameter inches in the function definition. This means it's used in the function in exactly the same way as the parameter was used in the definition. The for loop iterates over all the elements of the length list, a total of 5 iterations. So the function is called 5 times, once for each element passed as an argument. And here's the output. So it takes all the elements from the list one by one and calls the function passing this value as an argument. Now let's talk about the types of parameters. In Python, we don't declare the types of parameters. That means that when we define a function, we actually define a whole family of functions which can work in a different way depending on what type the parameters are. Here's a simple example. Let's define a function that takes two parameters, value 1 and value 2, and adds them together. This function returns the sum of these two parameters. We're going to talk about this statement in a while. It's used to return a value from the function. And now we can use the function with integer arguments, and this should work. So here's the name of the function to call it, and now let's pass two arguments, 3 and 8. And we get 11, which is the sum of 3 and 8. So 3 and 8 are arguments that correspond to the value 1 and value 2 parameters in the function definition respectively. 3 corresponds to value 1, 8 corresponds to value 2. But we can also pass floats to the function. So let's use float numbers. And this works too. We get the sum of these two numbers. Now, if we pass strings, the function will work as well, because we can use the plus operator with strings. Have a look. Handle values, the first argument, O, the second argument, no. And we get this, oh no. With strings, the plus operator has a different meaning. Instead of adding, it concatenates the strings. It can also be used with lists. Have a look. Let's use two lists as arguments. The first list is just 1, 2, 3, and the second list is 4, 5, 6, and 7. Good. And we got this, a concatenated list. So as you can see, the function can operate on quite a lot of types of parameters. Actually, it can work on any parameters for which the plus operator makes sense. If we use parameters with which the operator makes no sense, we'll get an error. Like, for example, if we try to concatenate a list and an integer. Have a look. Handle values, and let's try to use a list, 1, 2, 3, and an integer like 4. Now we'll get an error because we can't concatenate a list with an integer. For these two arguments, the plus operator doesn't make any sense. Well, we say Python functions are polymorphic. A polymorphic function is a function that can work with arguments of different types. Okay, that's it for this video. If you like it, a thumbs up would be great. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos. If you want to leave a comment or ask a question, you're welcome to do so. Thanks for watching.